Welcome back, Fantasy Managers. This is Devo1099 with a very special edition of the Fantasy Football Backers video. We have Bigo1 and Saramek joining us. So our first three-person video here with two of the brightest UK minds in DFF. Will, thanks for joining us. Manchester City back in the title hunt. How are you doing over in the UK?
Yeah, good. I feel a little bit outnumbered by two Arsenal fans on this podcast, especially after you guys beat us on Monday night. But I'll put it behind me, and I'll try and focus on the job in hand. You know what? Yeah, it's crazy to see the bookies' odds move so much this week. I mean, when Arsenal beat Man City, all of a sudden Arsenal were clear favourites for the league again. And then just because Arsenal lost 4-0 and City beat Sunderland, all of a sudden City are clear favourites again. So it's I guess it's just testament to the kind of Premier League season we're having right now.
Yeah. And Nick, Bigo1, how are you doing? How are you doing out there?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Had a big loss yesterday, so we'll try to recover.
No, you didn't.
I did. I lost all my. I basically played only cash, and I lost all of them basically.
Well, which is basically a rough run with penalty kick roulette, from what I understand.
Yeah. I had Boni and Oscar pretty much in all my teams. But the cash line to cash in yesterday was ridiculous, though. I mean, it's. But we're talking about 2-3 people, but. Two of them did amazingly well, so it was kind of impossible to cash in high stakes at least. But yeah, we'll try to recover. Tomorrow is a good slate to recover, I would say. I like tomorrow's slate, despite the late swaps, which is a big issue for Mondogoal, because as I said earlier. It will be very hard to second guess the Arsenal team tomorrow, and obviously that's kind of. I would love to have 4 Arsenal players in pretty much all of my lineups. Not because I'm an Arsenal fan, but I think that the kind of the easy play tomorrow. But I expect some rest from Wenger. He did that last year, to be honest, and I think it will happen again tomorrow. So that's the main issue of tomorrow's slates.
Yeah, I think that's an issue. Let's hold off on discussing the slate for a second, because I don't know how many folks are going to be able to watch this before the matches tomorrow. I'm sure some, but wanted to take a chance as we have both of you here to kind of discuss more openly just about where we are with DFF in the UK. Right now the big operator is Mondogoal. And there's some others that show some promise. Draftkings is apparently headed there in January. I'll believe it when I see it at this point. Could be a bit later, but I think before the end of this season they will be there. And FanDuel looks like they will be there as well. And this is this is going to be a big change in the UK because these companies are going to be spending a lot of money, both in their advertising and in their GPPs, where they'll be willing to take a loss to provide some overlay. Kind of the DraftKings model from the beginning was to take a loss, provide a lot of overlay, draw over players that were very loyal to Draft Street at the time and FanDuel, and kind of give them no option except that they needed to invest over here because they were getting free money. And then DraftKings was able to create a pretty fantastic user-friendly interface, and as we've seen, is they've possibly surpassed FanDuel in the U.S. and we'll see kind of what happens with the international openings. The challenges legally in my state in New York is pretty significant. Illinois now is creating some pretty significant problems. They had some legislation trying to get pushed through Congress, the state Congress, and they're going to try to get that in front of it, but that's a problem. Texas is a problem, and those are two very, very significant states in addition to New York. So the UK becomes a very necessary expansion. But we've been pretty loyal to Mondogoal, and we've enjoyed their product. Do you think that they will adapt fast enough to hold off these desperate U.S. companies?
Well, I think you touched on a key point there, Devo, when you said the ability of these big US operators to spend money, right? There's a lot of DFF operators in the UK right now in their infancy, and it seems like there are a few more complete outsiders looking to come into the market too. I think Bigo's, I can't remember the name, Ooh La La, I think you tweeted about, they just raised some money as well. But the thing that's going to make the real difference is if there's some serious money spent on marketing the fantasy product in the UK, because at the moment it's not happening. Mondogoal are the front runners, but it's still a small fraction of the kind of money that you associate with Draftkings and FanDuel spending. And until that happens, we're not really going to see the explosion in the DFS industry that we've seen in the US. And we're not going to know how popular the product is going to be in the UK as well. It's still going to be interesting to see how an already kind of saturated betting market in the UK with so many different betting products competing for gamblers' money already, how much of a slice of the pie the DFS industry is going to be able to get.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the main problem, as you said, is I think I counted, and there are 17 DFS sites offering football in the UK, and basically none of them has any marketing budget or anything to push the concept forward in the UK, and that's the main issue. Basically, what happened is like tons of people saw what was happening in the US 2-3 years ago, spent a year or two to develop a nice website. I mean, all of them are kind of okay, and they spent all the budget doing that, and then they're offering 1K maximum 2K GPPs every week, but without any marketing or anything like that, and that's the main problem, I think. I mean, first of all, there will be consolidation, I would say, in 2016, because Mondogoal has been much better in terms of like prices and drove a lot of people. We saw that. I mean, last year we were talking about probably 150, 200 unique users. That easily multiply this amount by 10, 15, 20, just by increasing the GPP numbers, and that's without any I mean, they advertise a bit on Facebook, but that's nothing really. So the first thing is there will be consolidation among the small guys as soon as DraftKings or FanDuel is coming, because it's not sustainable. Then after that, as you say, it's really an unknown to see if there's market. For sure, there's a huge market for gambling on football, that we know, and there's innovation all over the place as well. I mean, every single week there's a new website on a new concept, and basically it works half the time, but most of the time it fails and it's shut down within a week or two. I don't know. I'm quite bullish on DFS, and I think 2016 will be a big year for the UK for sure, because those two guys will come. I mean, it's two different concepts. FanDuel, I think, will offer only soccer in the UK and will not basically share any pools between US and UK, which I think is a big shame, because a lot of people here are fans as well of NBA, NFL, etc. But on the other hand, DraftKings apparently, well, that's what they told, but they haven't confirmed yet, want to share everything between the US, the UK, and soon they will open up in different jurisdictions as well. So that will be a game changer, because these guys will come with huge marketing power, will finally put the concept forward to different. I mean, in season long, we have 6 to 7 million players here in the UK, so it's kind of, if you look at demography, it's the same as the US, where you guys have 50, 55 million. So if you take that into account, you think that the UK market has a potential of probably 20% of those guys being DFS players. So we're talking 1 to 2 million players. which is quite a big market, but obviously we're nowhere near that amount. I mean, today I would say a maximum of 10,000 people are playing DFS in the UK. So it will be a massive year. 2016 will be a big year, and will be finally we will find out if there is a market or not. But I'm quite bullish on the UK DFS market, to be honest.
I agree with that, and I think that I think that the Wild are lumped together pretty frequently. The difference between a punter that is going to say, okay, I think Norwich is going to crush Villa tomorrow, versus somebody who wants to sit down and look at statistics and evaluate that type of thing. The fantasy player is a little bit different than the gambler. There's certainly a significant overlap, but I think that to say that because you have the option to bet on these games directly in the UK that fantasy is not going to survive, I think is very short-sighted. I think that anybody who really wants to bet on games in the U.S., even though it's not legal, is able to do so. I mean, I certainly have done so in my career, and just not done quite as well as I have with fantasy, because the market's different, your opponent is different, and it is a different product. I think that DraftKings and FanDuel coming over will be a big change. I'm interested to see what type of product FanDuel puts forward. I think that if you're wanting to attract casual players, as DraftKings does for all of their other sports, they made a big mistake in the scoring changes that they made recently. I think that I've played against friends who say, "Oh yeah, I love soccer, I love football. Let's play DraftKings, and I'll have a team that doesn't have a goal or an assist, and I'll win by 40, and they'll have a couple goals and an assist, and they're just like, what? How did you get 37 points from this guy that did nothing the entire game?" And they're not wrong. It's a silly, the corners and crosses is a silly thing. I think that they're going to have to make some changes, because I think it could be an opportunity where you have these large field contests like they do for the NFL and the U.S., where casual players can win because there's enough luck involved, and that they'll get attracted to the game, start playing in these kind of lottery formats, these high upside, put in $20 and win $1 million. And then if they change their scoring format enough that you can still win, going the other direction. But seeing that tomorrow, for instance, I will have Robbie Brady on my team on DraftKings against Villa, and he hasn't done anything in quite some time. He's probably a little too expensive. But if you gave me an over/under on his total points tomorrow, I'm going to say 17, and I would still say Norwich might not score, and that's just silly. And I think that they're going to need to change that. That's why I'm very curious if FanDuel goes towards more what DraftKings had before, which was more goal and assist centric with some crosses, with clean sheets mattering more, things that the casual player could kind of depend on a little bit more. I liked DraftKings' old product. I was definitely effective with it. I'm more effective with the new product, but we're chasing away players, and Mondogoal is more similar to DraftKings' new product, but I think more in tune with the actual performance of the players, because they don't have crosses, which I think is really what is detracting. What do you think ultimately is the type of scoring format, the type of lineup that is going to be the winner in the UK? Will?
I think it's quite close to what Mondogoal have right now. There are a few scoring changes that I would like to see with Mondogoal, but they're minor things. Generally speaking, if you watch Match of the Day, you have a good idea of who scored fantasy points that day on Mondogoal. It seems that if you watch Match of the Day, you have no idea how many points someone scored on DraftKings, because, as you say, goals barely count. It's not like when you watch Match of the Day, they show a highlight of a load of crosses or a load of corners. They say, "Wow, Mesut Ozil crossed it 14 times this game."
Yeah.
They don't say that. They're just...
That guy really got it out of bounds on the right end.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's pretty close to what Mondogoal have right now, where there's just enough going on to keep it interesting, but it's not so much that's overwhelming for the casual player.
Yeah, I agree. I think Mondogoal got it right. There are a few things like the yellows and the penalties, but all in all, if you look at it, all in all, I think they got it right. And I probably preferred it last year, where you got more points for fouls, etc. But it's minor, and I pretty much, I would say I agree. I would say it's very, very close to what Mondogoal is offering today.
So that's one thing that has been frustrating, and I think that it's a type of situation where over time it probably works itself out. But I've been on the wrong side of penalties pretty regularly, it seems, lately, either not having a taker who scores or having someone miss. To me, I don't think that a penalty goal should count as highly as a open play goal. I think they're obviously easier. They're scored at about 70-75%. They're assigned to a single player who didn't earn the penalty the majority of the time. And then when you factor in misses, you're looking like I had Bonnie on Draftkings yesterday, and him missing that penalty became a -5, or he got a point for the shot, so -4. Versus if he makes that is 12, that's a 16-point swing. And I had no idea if he would even necessarily be taking those penalties at the time. I guess Kolarov missed one, a while back, which also killed me, and so he lost the ability to take them. But I mean, do you think that penalty goals should actually be counted less, or is this part of the game that's always been there, and we're just going to continue with it? And do you think they should also, beyond missing penalties, should they also get negative points on top of that?
I don't know. I'm not certain that penalties need to be treated differently from standard goals. I think the lottery factor is still quite good to have in a DFS product. You need the possibility of suddenly making that huge gain on someone either ahead of you or behind you. And the chance, some people have criticized negative points, but the good thing about negative points is that if someone's ahead of you and you have no more players left to play, at least you still have that feeling like you're still in the game. Like their player could pick up a yellow card, their player could miss a penalty, their player could foul someone. And it's a similar thing with the penalties. As you say, it's really frustrating when it goes against you because it is a bit of a lottery, and who takes the penalty is an assignment. But I think, on the other hand, the drama aspect, the entertainment aspect, might be enough to make me think that it should just stay as it is.
Yeah, on my side, I think, -5 is too much, probably. I would like to cut it a bit, but I agree, it should have negative impact. What I don't like is the goalkeeper save on Mondogoal, I think, is +7, if I'm not mistaken, and that is ridiculous, because most of you got situations where the keeper concede a penalty, then get super lucky to save it and get +7 for it, while effectively what he did was an EV0 on the game. I think that is way too much. So all in all, I agree. Penalty, I'm not sure, should be treated differently. If you miss them, probably I would love it to be cut a bit. But more importantly, the keeper should not get +7 for a save, which is mostly random. He goes on one side and he gets lucky, and that's it. As well, if you get the penalty, you just get a foul on Mondogoal, so it's 0 + 5. I think it's,
yeah, that should change it.
Yeah, that should change. You should get an assist automatically, whether he misses or not, or at least an assist if he scores. But That's the minimum, because obviously it's very hard to get a penalty in Premier League today, because they look at diving very carefully. And well, anyway, I think you should not get plus 0.5 just to get one. So all in all, I mean, the scoring probably needs to be changed slightly, but the overall methodology is fine, I would say. It's just probably slightly too volatile for me, especially for the keeper on my side.
Yeah.
No, I think we're only talking about it as well because there have just been so many penalties recently too. Like, I think this weekend there was something like 4, and there were a few last weekend as well.
Yeah.
And I think the average is something like 1 penalty a week you should get. So it's just, obviously we've all suffered of it this weekend, this last slate rather. You know, I had Bonnie, you had Bonnie. I think Bigo, you had Bonnie too, and Oscar.
Yeah, and Oscar, I have tons of Oscar, mostly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not supposed to be.
We're part of our anger towards it is just because of these recent results. But
yeah, and that was the first thing I say, and that's absolutely true. And I mean, you know, Troy Deeney is shooting up the Premier League goal scoring, and I don't think he's scored from open play yet, which is silly. But I wanted to discuss it. I do think that, like I said, it does kind of work itself out in the wash, and you can take guys because you know that they are the penalty taker. I do think the negative is probably a little too negative.
Yeah.
I think maybe you could take away the shot and the shot on target if you're taking the penalty. That would be something that would maybe soften it a little bit, because that's a given. But overall, I think I'm fine with it. It's part of the randomness, and like Will said, which I think is a good point, particularly on Mondogoal, there's not a ton of luck involved, or there not as much as there could be, and I think that does have that element to make it a little bit more exciting. So, all right, well, I think that's a solid discussion here. Let's go through the games fairly quickly. Just because there's not a ton of new information from when Nick and I did it a couple days ago. We do have 8 games that we're going to cover here. The Tuesday and Wednesday games are if there is a slate, it's not going to be particularly interesting. So let's start out with Palace and Swansea. 2 teams that really can't score for the life of them at the moment. Palace, I'm not positive about Balassier and Cabaye tomorrow. Cabaye came in for a few minutes. I would imagine Balassier, if he couldn't play yesterday, he's not playing tomorrow. And then Swansea is just a total train wreck in attack. Fabianski came up quite big yesterday. If you used him as we recommended, I'm ready to just kind of avoid this game overall. Will, are there any players on Palace or Swansea that you're particularly interested in?
Not really. From a clean sheet point of view, in GPPs, I think Palace are worth a look at, certainly. Swansea keep the ball a lot. They're a possession-based side, so that tends to starve the opposition of fantasy points. And as a result, I'm not generally picking Palace players very much anyway, but I'm almost certainly not going to be picking any in cash tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, if Cabaye starts, I think he could be a good play in cash. He played 45 minutes yesterday, so hopefully he's fit. He could play, I think everybody's injured up front, so he could play slightly more forward, I think, basically as a number 10. So it's worth checking the lineups, but if he starts and he plays number 10, it could be a good play, I think. For the rest, as Will said, it's very hard to use in cash because it could very well end up as a 1-1 with a goal from Saramek and from Key, and basically you have zero fantasy points. So, but Cabaye could be interesting on my side.
Do we know who's playing up front for Palace tomorrow? Because
I think it will be either Campbell or Shamak.
We know he won't score. We don't know who he is.
If it's Shamak, he won't score for sure. Campbell is not a bad player.
I guess. Whatever.
They all
They haven't
best.
scored yet this season. I don't think tomorrow is going to be the first time. I think Cabaye and even Suarez is okay because he's
quite cheap.
enough. I don't know. There are better plays tomorrow. I think Fabianski could get another clean sheet, and he's only 5.2 million on Mondogoal.
Yeah.
I think that's a GPP play, just because I actually do think he's a pretty solid keeper, and when Palace doesn't have anybody that we would consider to take an attack, and you can get a keeper for 5.2 million, that's not so bad. But overall, I think we're all in agreement that's a pretty boring game. Let's move on to a slightly better one. At Goodison Park, Everton, who won in the final seconds with Cleverly yesterday, hosting Stoke, who knocked off Manchester United and has an uneven but pretty strong run where they've beaten some pretty good teams. Leighton Baines is back for Everton. He's put up some points. Barkley and Lukaku are highly overpriced everywhere. Deulofeu didn't start yesterday. And then on Stoke, you've got Arnautovic, who was nursing some injuries late in that game and I think potentially may sit tomorrow. Bojan, who has had a couple games and is the penalty taker, as we know. And Shaqiri, who has certainly underwhelmed outside of a 2-assist performance a couple weeks ago that Will doesn't want to talk about. But what direct? I mean, if you're betting the over/under on 2.5 goals here, which direction are you going? And do you have any confidence whatsoever, Nick?
Yeah, that's a good line. I would get the over. I think definitely Lukaku will be quite highly owned, I would say. Barkley is not bad. Deulofeu is pretty sure to start because I was not overly impressed by Lennon, to be honest. So those three guys will be quite highly owned. I think lots of people still like Stoke as well. I'm quite bearish on Stoke tomorrow. I mean, it's going to be a tough game. There will be a rotation as well. I mean, Mark Hughes in the past has rotated quite a lot around this time, so I would expect a few, as you say, Arnautovic, if he's slightly injured, will be off, and I mean there will be rotation, so it depends really who will he play, but I would assume Stoke win by a couple of goals, and definitely they will be in a few teams of mine. As you said, the defenders, Coleman, Baines, are quite expensive, but always good for an assist. So for sure, that even as a cash, they could be interesting. So all in all, I think a lot of people will be on Everton, and probably rightly so, I would say.
Yeah, I think I prefer the Everton side of this game as well. I agree that Lukaku and Barkley are very overpriced on Mondogoal at the moment, but it's not like there's many places to spend the money tomorrow anyway, so I may end up slipping Lukaku into quite a few teams. I'm not so sure about Barkley. I think he's even more overpriced than Lukaku, but we'll see. I mean, it kind of goes back to that point about...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Barkley's also no longer on free kick duty now that Baines is back, which...
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's true.
And most corners, so that takes a lot of his assist potential out.
Yeah.
And he doesn't play 90 minutes anymore as well. I think the last 2 games he went off at around 70, 75. So that's a lot of negatives on Barkley, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Butland is too expensive on Mondogoal because he's just been so good. But he's very cheap on Draftkings if you want to bet against Lukaku, which also hasn't been a very good bet. But I think that's an okay game. I think there's better options, and one of those is is Norwich. Norwich getting Villa at home. Norwich has had a really rough schedule lately. They had looked decent, and then they ran into a bad run of form. That Newcastle game stands out about a month ago. But this is the best option to use them, and because they've been in some really difficult fixtures, they're very cheap now. The question is, can you trust Redmond? If he starts, is he going to play a full 90 minutes? He's been playing a lot more lately than he was earlier on in the season. Brady, if he plays, on the left wing, he's relatively inexpensive on Mondogoal. He's okay priced on Draftkings, and he's certainly going to be a big part of their attack. And even Jerome, he's getting touches in dangerous spots. He's not a particularly good player, but this is Villa we're talking about. And then you've got Rudd in net at 7.8 million on Mondogoal. And Villa's okay. They've been a little bit better. They've shown a little signs of life, but Norwich is trying to stay up. They're in decent position to stay up. Is this a game where you're willing to trust them, Will?
For me, I don't think Norwich players are actually that conducive to Mondogoal scoring. I think DraftKings, they're someone like Robbie Brady, as we've discussed, is an absolute dream. But I actually quite like Villa, or I think they've been playing better than they've been getting credit for. And I think Tim Sherwood was complaining about the signings that were made under his reign there. But actually, since Remy Gard's come in, I really like the look of Veretout. There's some other guys. Gay as well, midfield, who's looked pretty good. Jordan Ayew, sometimes he looks really good. I think someone's going to buy him at the end of the season if Villa go down, which is pretty likely. So overall, I don't think I'm on too many Norwich players tomorrow, but maybe some defenders. Well, they're not very good at keeping clean sheets, Norwich. So yeah, I don't know. Malumbu, I think, played yesterday for Norwich, and he's super cheap on Mondogoal, so maybe worth a look at.
Nick, I know you're more likely to play some Norwich players tomorrow because you're going to trust the bookies more. What are you thinking?
Not really. I'm not a big fan of Norwich players in general. I've been faded basically Norwich and Sunderland players the whole year, and I'm quite happy with that. The main problem with Norwich is the rotation. Is you don't know who is going to play, and there will be good value. I think I'm not sure Jerome will play. I would say Mbokani should get a chance tomorrow, and I definitely prefer him to Jerome. So if he plays, I might have him in a couple of lineups. For the rest, as Will said, Brady in Mondogoal is quite hard to get because he fouls a lot, and he basically gets nothing else but sometimes a random long shot goal, and it is very hard to use. Redmond has been okay in the beginning. He's been off for a while. Houlihan, you'd never know if he plays. He might play only 45 minutes, so it's quite hard to use in cash. So all in all, I'm not gonna use tons of Norwich tomorrow for sure, but depending on the lineup, there will be a couple of players probably I will be on for sure. It's quite hard. It's not a great game as well. We talked about Palace and Swansea, and it's pretty much the same. You can't see that many goals, and you don't see where they come from as well. It's very hard to. Those two games, I'm not a big fan actually. But as you said, yes, I look at the bookies and it's ridiculous. It's pretty much like a given that Norwich will win tomorrow according to the bookies. But I'm not sure I agree with that actually.
Yeah, me too.
That's fair. And I agree. I feel like if you're going to back Norwich, you're going to take Redmond, and that's a bit of a leap given his recent form and given the fact that Norwich is not very good. But I think I don't know. Maybe it's being an American and not liking Guzan, but I think Villa is pretty bad.
No,
All
they're
right.
definitely bad. Yeah.
Look, I mean, we have to take players from somewhere. So far we've discussed,
I
maybe
know,
a
that's true.
couple Everton players, but and we
Arsenal.
and you mentioned not take well, but you mentioned you don't know who Arsenal's going to play. So
So,
let's go to another game that I think is you would not have pegged to be a fascinating match at the beginning of the season, but Watford hosting Tottenham, two teams comfortably in the top half of the Premier League, with the slightly worse team at home. Um, Watford has two strikers that have been scoring as much as anybody outside of Vardy and Mahrez for the same team. Just managed to get a draw at Chelsea and probably had a good chance at holding on to that win. And then the Spurs, who've not looked like the Spurs this season, they have a couple poor performances here and there, but overall, they're not losing too many matches and they're looking a little bit more solid. Is this going to be a tight match, Nick, or do you think, is this a game where the Spurs say this is a promoted team, we are a top four contender, we're going to go win 2-0 on the road?
I mean, it could be tight, but surely there should be goals in there. So definitely the Spurs will be quite interesting in terms of. I mean, you pretty much, as I said last time, you don't know where the goals come from for Norwich or for Palace. For Tottenham, you kind of know. I mean, clearly, Kane, Ali has been good. Eriksen is still okay in cash. So, I mean, those three guys will always be quite useful, especially against Watford, that even if it's away. So definitely, I mean, they will be quite highly owned and rightly so as well. So. I would check the lineup. I'm not sure Lamela will play. I would think Son will play ahead of him. I really like him as well. I don't know why he's getting 4 minutes for this team. If he plays, he will be in a few teams of mine for sure. So there will be four guys: Ali, Son, Eriksen, Kane, who I like a lot, and probably a lot of people will like as well. But I wouldn't bet on Watford keeping a clean sheet for sure.
yeah, I think I'm going to end up fading Igalo and Kane both in cash, which is just going to be a serious sweat for me at 3 o'clock. But I do like Eriksen as a cash game play. As Bigo said, he's got he has a low floor generally because he's always on the ball. And he screwed me yesterday, but hopefully he'll make up for that tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, Dele Alli has been pretty incredible. He's he's a young player that we thought was playing defensive mid and then moved back in towards a 10 and pushed Eriksen out wide, and he just keeps producing, and I keep forgetting to play him. Yesterday I probably would have. I ended up playing Zaha in his spot, which obviously didn't go well. So he's on my radar. I don't think this is a particularly good match for him, but I've been wrong about how much he can influence a game. So from a fantasy perspective, because Igalo and Dini are so expensive, because Kane's so expensive, I think this game might be relatively easy to fade. And like Bigo said, if Son's in there, he's active and he can score in a lot of different ways, and he'll be a fresh player, which can go a long way when everybody played 2 days ago. So
yeah.
Overall, I think that we'll be looking for value in this game based on rotation, not based on actual opportunity, because this is another one that, if it was 1-1, I don't think any of us would be particularly surprised. So, all right, so there's 3 more games in the afternoon, if I did that correctly, or is what's from Newcastle too? Sorry, I guess that game counts. We're gonna count that game. So So the last game of the early slate where we'll have the lineups for Mondogoal, West Brom and Newcastle. Will, I got nothing.
I think this will be a terrible game. I think this will be very painful on the eye. There's probably some value in there though. West Brom defenders, Newcastle maybe, because West Brom actually they don't keep the ball. I mean Newcastle midfielders because West Brom don't like keeping the ball. Which now Adam's been pretty good this year on Mondogoal, but he is pretty expensive. But pricing isn't really an issue tomorrow because we've only really got Arsenal players in it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to play anyone. Maybe a West Brom defender from this game. That's probably it. But it's not going to be one that I'm going to hurry to watch on match today.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, the West Brom defender is always okay at home. I think, as you know, always said they're overrated, but this time they faced Newcastle, so clearly it could be a good time to use them. They're quite cheap finally as well. I think my heel is 6.2 finally. So it's kind of a good spot to use those guys. Depending on who is up front as well. I mean, if it's Lambert, definitely I fade. If it's Berahino up front, I could use him as well. I mean, he has something to prove finally, and it could be a good start for him. For the rest, the midfield of West Brom is very hard to use. In Mondogoal, in Draftkings, it's fairly different because you have all these corners guys like Gardner and.
Well, but McLean and Rondo
out, yeah.
Great Reds.
Yeah, but that means Gardner is on corner, etc., and it's pretty cheap.
Well.
Yeah, on Mondogoal is far less the case because the guy is, I mean, he loves the yellow and basically. So no, I would definitely fade the midfield of West Brom, but for the rest, it's not too bad. As for Newcastle, I mean, they're so cheap, but still, I find it very hard to use any of their players. To be honest, it's.
I think Mitrovic is down at 4 million or something on Mondogoal.
Yeah, and Perez as well is below 5, but still, I mean, as you said, cash is not such an issue on this slate. And you have tons of good value. You will have tons of good values as well. I mean, we're talking about the Palace striker will be below 5 millions.
Yeah.
Jerome is 5 million, and Bocani is around that. I mean, there will be good guys anyway. Probably better strikers are around 5-6 millions to use than those guys. So I don't know. I'm not sure I will have a single Newcastle player tomorrow. And yeah.
It really annoys me when cash is not an issue on Mondogoal because it reduces the player pool to about a third of the listed players out there because you're not going to pick someone like Mitrovic.
That's not their fault tomorrow though. I think that it's just a weird slate.
Yeah. Having said that, they use the games at 5:30. Why don't they use the game on Tuesday? Because clearly. I mean, what's the difference of having Arsenal, which you have absolutely no idea of who is going to play, compared to City Leicester, who you think might play the best team? It's quite easy to get. So I'd rather them to remove the Arsenal game and put the City game, to be honest. Just in terms of pure randomness, I mean, it will help to be. I don't get it. I don't get why we don't get this. I mean, this is an important game. People will get excited about that game as well, and that could be a game changer as well. You know, like if you still have one player for the Tuesday. I don't understand. I mean, I understand for Saturdays when they want to only have one game outside of the normal basically time where it's locked up, but. For tomorrow, half the games are after lockup period anyway, so why don't you use Man City? That's something I would ask Mondogoal to be. It's quite painful to have this slate where basically you have to use Arsenal. I mean, we'll get there, but you have to use Arsenal players, and I can't believe I can't wait for Twitter reactions when Wenger decides to rest Özil or Ramsey, which is clearly possible. I mean,
I can't wait for your reactions. Well,
it will be the same. I mean, it's always the same one. We need late swap for this kind of games. Tomorrow is a perfect. I mean, tomorrow, whoever doesn't have Arsenal will probably lose because I mean I can't see. There are such an obvious play that's it's painful to just basically second guess Wenger's decision on who is gonna play, who is not gonna play. For sure, he said just before Christmas that he wants to rest Özil. So if you believe him, tomorrow will be the day where he rests him because clear. So I mean, tons of decisions like that you really don't know, and that's really a pain for me. And that's why I probably will play far less high stakes than the usual because I don't mind to lose £5 if Özil doesn't play. I mind to lose £110 if I lose because I get a big fat zero from Özil. So I mean it's Mondogoal's fault. If they give late swap, for sure players like me will play far more tomorrow than they will play. I would say than they will play tomorrow. Actually tomorrow, it's quite painful.
Yeah. I'm a little bit, they promised us late swap in early August, September at the latest, and it seems like they just decided to just push it back and not worry about it without ever giving us another update about it. So that's disappointing with Mondogoal. I think they did adjust, a bit because they stopped including the early game. But that, taking games away isn't necessarily positive, for players. Some players want to play the full week games like they do in the NFL, and you get every game and you get to choose all your players. But tomorrow is the first time in a while where there's 3 games, like you said, and on top of that, it's, there was a game 2 days ago. So rotation is so much more likely than it is on a week-to-week basis that we're just kind of guessing. And moving on to the Arsenal game and moving on to these 3 games that are after the 3 p.m. games. Ozil could definitely sit. Ramsey should probably sit. Giroud has been playing every match. Walcott is back from injury and I guess Campbell will probably play, but nobody wants him. Gibbs might play. Chamberlain might play. But then you look at Wenger, and they just came off a 4-0 loss, and they kind of need to win this match and need to make sure they have their best players going, or they're taking a hit for trying to win the league. So there's way too much doubt in this team for me to be able to invest a lot. And even with Draftkings, you can carve out space for Arsenal players, but you don't know exactly which players they are, and you need to keep the right positions and keep the flexes open and everything. And at least you can manage it with that. Nick, you've talked about it a lot. Like, you're going to play tomorrow. I know you like to talk about how you're not going to play because you're frustrated about
I will play. I will play less.
What Arsenal players are you willing to rest?
As I said, I will play mostly the low stakes teams, and I would assume that Wenger pretty much plays the normal 11. I mean, basically, as you say, Campbell should play, but if there is a change to be made, I would say Campbell out, Oxlade in.
Should be.
If I was the manager, anyway. But I would assume basically that the starting 11 from yesterday, more or less Oxlade, Chamberlain will play. But I would not risk a huge amount on a team where basically I play Özil and Giroud and Ramsey together, which would be my normal play. So I would definitely play, but play far less and assume effectively that Wenger plays the real, the normal starting 11. If I get burnt, I get burnt £5, as I say. I don't mind too much. It's very different than playing 200 pounds on the lineup and then you lose by 5 points just because Özil didn't play. And that I mean, it could be the other way around. You could win by 5 points because your opponent get two Arsenal players not playing. I mean, but it's a lottery, and basically you're kind of angry when it happens to you, and you tend to forget when you're on the right side of it. So to avoid being frustrated before going back to work on Tuesday, I think I would just play less. I mean, play as many teams as I used to do, but play less high stakes.
What about you, Will?
I don't know what I'm going to do right now, to be honest. I didn't realize these guys were such huge doubts for tomorrow until you guys.
They might not be.
They're not. They're not. Yeah.
We overthink everything. We've expected to.
I like Czech. I'll probably put him in goal.
Yeah.
I don't think Ospinall's going to get a wrinkle. Yeah. And I don't know. I would like to play Ozil tomorrow, like you guys, but yesterday for the early kickoff where we didn't know the lineup for the City game, I didn't play any City player. I think I had Sanya in and maybe Hart as well because I couldn't rely on De Bruyne playing, couldn't rely on Yaya playing, Silva and Aguero. And when the lineups came out and Aguero wasn't in it, I was like, okay, I probably did the right thing. But then, sure enough, De Bruyne went off, Yaya went off, and Silva got a lot of points as well. So, yeah, I didn't even come close to cashing in that as a result. It's hard to know what the right strategy is. You know, it's hard to know. I'm sure there is a right strategy and there's a way of figuring it out, but I don't know what it is right now. And tomorrow, with all these doubts on Arsenal players, I don't know what I'm going to do right now.
I think that the right strategy is something that comes to fruition after the fact. I don't think anybody could know in advance because it's going to be a surprise somewhere. We don't know what it'll be, and obviously Arsenal is the most important. You could comfortably skip United, Chelsea, and West Ham, Southampton to a degree. I would probably look at some Southampton players personally, but United, Chelsea, I think if that's 0-0, we move on and nobody is remotely surprised. But
what's the contrarian play for United, Chelsea?
Contrarian, Rooney.
Yeah, maybe.
I think Rooney would be the ultimate contrarian play. I think
I don't know what people are expecting going into this game. I don't know what
he has to start, and you would be out of your mind to play him. I think that's the definition of a contrarian play. He certainly can score against Chelsea, who's been giving up goals all year. But yeah, I mean he's 7.4 million now. We paid.
I would play him if I knew he was going to start. I think I would play him tomorrow, but I'm not going to risk it.
I think he's starting. I would have him if you trust me. Put him in one of your GPP teams.
Okay, I'll do that. And because I can name lineups on Mondogoal now, I'll name it the Devo team.
There you go.
I'll tweet it at you.
I appreciate that. So we're running over time here. I don't think anybody's watching anymore anyhow. I mean, is there skip over United, Chelsea? Who knows? West Ham, Southampton. Do you trust anything Southampton did last match, or is this just variance at play and they managed 4 against Arsenal and now they're going to go back to having 20 chances created and Adrian is going to have 8 saves? What's going to happen in that match?
I think again you've got the issue of who's going to play because Southampton like to rest their players. Right? What's going to happen there? Cedric, I'd like to be able to play Cedric, but I mean he's like a 70% shot to start. Mane, I'd like to play, but he likes to be rested as well. So I don't know. Yeah, Pallard he was injured yesterday, right? He's not going to be.
He was, yeah. And then Tadic didn't start yesterday, so I guess he'll probably play. But
yeah,
I think Cedric and Pelé are out. It's confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Having said that, as you said, Mane was rested every time he went in internationals. He was rested. I agree. There will be changes despite them winning. I mean, the good thing is they won 4-0, so it's harder to change to change and rotate massively. So that's the only good thing. There will still be changes.
Pella's out.
Okay.
Expected to return maybe January 9th, but that's unknown. Cedric is considered 50%, which is typically less than 50% in.
I think, yeah, I think he said he's out this morning, but anyway, I mean, it's, as you said, it's unplayable tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the guy scored a wonderful goal. He loves to play. Don't remember his name.
Kuko Martino or something.
Yeah, but even the other guy, I think the Japanese guy.
Yoshida.
So effectively, it would be one of the three guys. So it's very hard to use. The other part of the defense is quite settled, though. I mean, I don't think Fonte or Van Dijk will be rested.
Yeah. No injury concerns there either, and
yeah. So compared to Arsenal, could change everybody in the defense. Southampton
could easily play.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, probably Long will play as well. He did very well, and they have no other strikers if Pele is out. So, I agree. I mean, Southampton is not a bad way to use your money, because money is quite expensive, but at the end of the day, as Will said, it's fairly easy to make room for a midfield around 10-11 million tomorrow. So it could be a good GPP player for sure.
All right. Well, I think we've covered most of it. This will be an interesting day. It's you know, I don't know if casuals have the endurance to play 2 days later and really get excited about it so much. Just be a bunch of Monday grinders out there. I know I'll be traveling tomorrow, but I'll get some teams in before I have to start worrying about that. But thanks for joining us. I hope you guys had a nice Christmas and Happy New Year, and we'll get another game week at the weekend after we all get drunk on New Year's Eve. So best of luck tomorrow. Really appreciate you guys making the time to do this, and hope that we've got a big 2016 ahead of us, I think, and things should really expand and explode, and we'll see who survives, and we'll be there to help them out, and hopefully they listen to us. But cheers, guys.
Thanks,
I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Yep.